Are you looking for some cold water aquarium fish that won't need a heater? In this video, I'll be going over my top 12 cold water fish that don't need a heater. All these fish are easy to care for and great for beginners. My first cold water fish on this list is the zebra danio. Zebra danios are incredibly easy to care for. They don't need a heater and can live very comfortably in water temperatures of 65 to 78 degrees Fahrenheit, so around 18 to 26 degrees Celsius. I believe they're one of the best cold water fish out there. They look really cool with their black and white stripes. You don't really see that kind of pattern in other aquarium fish. They will need at least a 10-gallon tank because of their size and how active they are. I like to keep them in mini schools of at least 4. Zebra danios eat just about anything you feed them. Drop a bit of food in the tank and they will just go crazy after that, especially flake foods. These are super aggressive eaters, so if you're keeping them with other slower fish, that could be an issue. The male zebra danios grow to about 2 inches and the females are slightly bigger than the males. Males are also a little bit more slim. That's how you normally tell them apart. You don't need to worry about water temperature. You could keep zebra danios in cold water as well as tropical water. A heater won't be necessary for these guys as they can tolerate a wide range of temperatures. And zebra danios are a very tough fish overall, super hardy, and you can keep them without a heater. Next up on this list we have the clown killifish. These are a beautiful nano fish. They're full of color. Unheated aquarium is going to be fine for them. You could get a small group of these in a 5 to 10 gallon tank and just keep them as a species only tank. Clown killifish are a great community fish. You could keep them with other peaceful cold water species, but they can be a bit hard to find. They're not really that common in fish stores, and they're not as common as some of the other fish on this list, but still a popular killifish. Temperature can be anywhere between 67 and 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Just like the zebra danio, they also thrive in warmer water. These are also a great centerpiece fish. They look very striking, got super vibrant colors, and they only get to about 1 inch to 1.5 inches, which is really small for a centerpiece. But they look super awesome if you're looking for a centerpiece fish in a cold water tank. I would definitely recommend this. Also a great community fish, so you could keep them with stuff like live bearers and tetras without an issue. Third fish on this list is the Endler guppy. Now this is different from the common guppy. They're very similar fish, same family and all that. The difference is that Endlers are a lot hardier in many ways, and temperature is definitely one of them. So you could keep Endlers in a tank from 67 all the way to 80 degrees Fahrenheit. They're very hardy fish. They're like bulletproof versions of guppies. Guppies aren't really that suitable for low temperatures. Endlers, on the other hand, are going to do perfectly well in unheated tanks. These are great live bearing fish, got a ton of character. The males are the ones that got all the color. The females look more or less the same, kind of that dullish gray look. Males grow to about 1 inch while the females get to about 1.5 to 2 inches. They won't need a heater in the tank. Breeding is still going to happen at lower temperatures. Endlers are also very easy to breed. I say this in every video, but Endlers are one of the easiest fish ever. They breed super easily, anybody can breed them. No need to do anything special, they just breed. They can breed in cold temperatures. Number 4 on the list is the Hillstream loach. So the Hillstream loach is a bottom dwelling fish. You're going to see them clinging onto the glass most of the time, eating algae and leftover food. Hillstream loaches are great scavenging fish. They don't go after hair algae or that long kind of algae that much. They're very good at taking out brown algae and spot algae that accumulates on the glass or any other part of the tank. They're good at removing algae on surfaces, but nonetheless a great algae eater. These fish originate from cooler waters in Southeast Asia, so they actually like the temperatures on a slightly lower scale. I would say around 67 degrees to 75 degrees Fahrenheit. They're going to do fine in temperatures of a bit lower than usual. A lot of people will actually make the mistake of keeping Hillstreams in warm water. Oftentimes they even die because of it, because in a lot of fish stores they're usually kept in lower temperatures. But these guys are super hardy. They look like these tiny stingrays. One thing they don't like is sudden fluctuation, so if you're ever going to change the temperature, change it slowly time to time so that they can adjust. They get to about 3 inches, maybe even a bit less. Number 5 on the list is the Variatus platy. And yes, it's just the Variatus platy. We're not talking about other kinds of platies here. So the Variatus platy is a slightly different species compared to the regular platies. They get a bit larger. They also have a somewhat different body shape. The other difference is these platies actually prefer cold water. These fish are very hardy, super active. They breed just like the Endlers, so they're really easy to breed. You could have a male and a couple females, and they're going to fill up the tank. You could keep the Variatus platy in temperatures as low as 65 degrees Fahrenheit, which is pretty low for a live bearer because most require a bit of a higher temperature. This type of platy is considered hardier than the other varieties. Platies are a great tropical fish, any kind of platy. Variatus platies do great in tropical waters, higher temperatures. They breed mostly in tropical waters, 80 degrees-ish or maybe a bit higher. Higher temperatures are going to boost their metabolism, and that's just something to consider if you want to breed them. You can find these Variatus platies in most fish stores, very popular and another great cold water fish. My next fish on this list is the Scarlet baddie. So these are a colorful nano fish. They stay very small, grow to about an inch. You don't see them getting any bigger than that. They're super tiny fish, and they're great nano fish for an unheated aquarium. So they don't need a heater at all. Scarlet baddies can be kept in moderate to cold water. Usually when you see these at a fish store, they're not colored up, but you can actually get them to have more color by feeding them stuff like bloodworms or egg yolk. Get that bit of protein in there. I really like egg yolk, and you'll see the colors become more vibrant over time. Only the male scarlet baddies are going to show the bright red coloration. Females don't have a lot of color, and neither do the juveniles. So that's something to keep in mind. Scarlet baddies are a very slow fish. Whenever you see them in the tank, they don't tend to be as active as many other fish, and they sort of just stay in one place and move a tiny bit. And you have to keep in mind when you're feeding the tank, because normally it takes them some extra time to get to the top. You could sometimes push the food down the water where they could reach it, or you could also feed something like egg yolk that just dissolves in the water. So scarlet baddies are a very peaceful little fish, also beginner friendly, and they're relatively easy to care for. The next fish on this list is the Medaka ricefish. These are very hardy little fish that come in all sorts of varieties. A lot of people keep them in outdoor ponds and stuff. These are like a growing trend. They've been popular. They've been getting more popular in recent years, but they're a very common cold water fish known for living outdoors, and that also means that they're very suited to living in cold water in your fish tanks. You can keep Medakas in unheated tanks. I wish they were more popular in America because you can't really find them in any fish stores. They're really popular in Japan. I've been there, I've seen it. Their fish stores offer a ton of these fish. Medaka ricefish are great for unheated, cool environments. Like I said, a lot of people keep them in their outdoor ponds. They're a really nice pond fish, so they could go pretty low with temperature. There's also many different varieties of these Medaka ricefish. You could get the standard plain white. There's also some that have a bit of a gold hue, which is pretty contrasting from the normal ones. Medakas are a great fish to put in your unheated aquarium. Definitely a choice to consider. My 8th fish on this list is the gold barb. So the gold barb is literally golden color. They're dark yellow, orangish, and these fish are great for unheated tanks. Gold barbs are super adaptable, peaceful, and also active. They're a great schooling fish. They like to be in groups of 4 to 5 at least, and they're also a bottom to mid dweller, so they're going to stay near the bottom of the tank. But not like cories and platies and stuff. They usually hang around the mid to bottom sections of the tank, looking for food, scavenging around. Some of these gold barbs can actually grow quite large, up to 3 inches in some cases, and because of that, 20 gallons and above is usually what's recommended. And not a lot of people know gold barbs are a cold water fish, but they are. Next up on the list we have the bronze corydora, sometimes called the green corydora. These guys are brownish in color with a bit of a green hue along their bodies. These corydoras are great cold water fish, won't need a heater, which is great because most corydoras can only live in tropical water ranges. But bronze corydoras can go down to 68-ish degrees, which if you have a cold water tank, these would work great. And it's also great that they're very popular and common in fish stores, so relatively easy to find. You could get a group of them. These are a very active cory. They do fantastic in schools. I do recommend keeping them in schools because of how shy they can be if they're kept solo. Ideally, a group of 5 and above go to around 1.5 inches. These are a great bottom dwelling choice to consider for a cold water tank. Very easy to keep for a corydora. Do fine in cold water temperatures without a heater. Also a great community fish. These are definitely one of the more adaptable varieties of cories, and they're very resilient to different water parameters. pH, it can be high or low, doesn't really matter. Anywhere between 6 to 8 is going to be okay. My 10th fish on this list is the white cloud minnow. This is another well-known cold water fish, very common pond fish, just like the Medaka ricefish. In fact, they get to around the same size, but the white cloud minnows are much more colorful than Medakas. There's the golden varieties, and there's also the standard black and reds. There's also many long fin versions that you can look into. I've never kept any of those myself, but those are selectively bred for their fins, and as you can see, they made it long and fancy. Some people even keep them in the ponds when the water is frozen over, and they're still going to survive, so that gives you a good idea how low they can go. But typically, white cloud minnows could get as low as 60 degrees Fahrenheit. They're very hardy fish, especially when it comes to temperature. These are very active fish. If you get a group of males and females, you could even breed them. They breed just fine in cold water. I used to breed white-clawed minnows by putting 2 males and a female in a breeder box, and they were able to breed just like that without any heater, so very easy cold water fish. Baby white clouds are tiny, by the way. They're like half the size of baby guppies. They do fantastic in cold water. It's never an issue. This goes for either type of white-clawed minnow, by the way. White clouds are very peaceful. You can keep them in a community aquarium. Now, they do eat guppy fry or any other kind of fry that you have. Males can sometimes be a bit aggressive, a bit territorial, but most of the time it's not something to worry about. These are another one of my top favorite beginner cold water fish, and I definitely recommend white-clawed minnows for beginners who are new to the hobby. Number 11 on the list is goldfish. This is a very common cold water fish, probably the most common of all time. Pretty much everybody has kept goldfish at one point or another. I kept these when I first started out. Goldfish are a fantastic cold water fish. They don't need a heater in the tank, and there's tons of different goldfish that you could get. A lot of people get these fancy goldfish that can be put into ponds, so they have like this outdoor pond with a bunch of goldfish in it. With no heater, even if there's ice on the top, they're still going to remain active. If you want to keep them in a tank, you have to make sure they get enough room, which most of the time people don't give enough room to them. Some species of goldfish can grow up to a foot, and others up to 5-6 inches. These are not an easy fish to keep, and you have to do a ton of research beforehand. But normally goldfish get a lot bigger than most people expect them to. So it's really important that you do your research, especially when it comes to tank size. In almost any scenario, you're gonna need a minimum of 100 gallons. One thing you won't need to worry about is temperature, because goldfish are very adapted to cold waters. They come from regions that have really low temperatures, so they're just super adapted to that. They're also not exactly great community fish. If you got a community tank with tetras, live bears and stuff, they're probably not going to get along too well. Also, goldfish will eat your live aquarium plants. They will literally eat all the plants in there unless you've got certain plants that they don't go after. But if you want to keep them in a community tank, you have to keep them with other fish that are around the same size as them. Number 12 on the list is the celestial pearl danio. I've kept these fish about 2 or 3 years ago, kept them in a 20-gallon tank, and they're really great cold water fish. They have amazing colors, grow to about an inch, so super tiny nanofish, very peaceful. Make sure you keep celestial pearl danios in groups of 10 gallons and above if you can. I would also recommend you get a group of them because they're very shy. You will find that celestial pearl danios will feel a lot more safe when they're kept in groups of at least 4. Preferred pH is around 7 to 8, so nothing out of the ordinary, and with temperature they can go as low as 70 degrees Fahrenheit, so about 21 degrees Celsius. Females are going to be much larger than males, just like almost any other fish. I also recommend keeping them in a planted tank to get that contrast, and that's when they really stand out. Their colors look amazing. Throw a group in a planted tank, they only get to about 1 inch, which is super tiny. One thing I've noticed is that they might appear bigger on camera or on the photos that you find on Google, but in reality they're only about an inch, or a lot of times even less. Like, I used to Google these fish and they turned out to be a lot smaller than I expected. That was like the biggest shocker for me when I first got them. I also feel like most of the pictures that you see online are these super colorful ones, and unless you feed them live or frozen foods, they're not going to look quite the same. CPDs are also going to appear especially small when you get them at fish stores, because the stores often sell them when they're still juveniles, when they're like half an inch or less. Anyways, I think these are a great nano fish for cold water tanks, and they can live perfectly fine without a heater. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe down below. If you want to know my top 12 most bulletproof aquarium fish, click this video right here. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.